Hi, I'm Josh Olson, and you're watching Trailers from Hell. And if it seems a little cold to you, that's because we're coming to you from the Russian front with James Coburn and an international cast in Sam Peckinpah's last great film, Cross of Iron.
In this century of great wars, no other compares to the mammoth struggle between Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia.
There are lots of great Sam Peckinpah films. The Wild Bunch, Straw Dogs, The Getaway, Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, Ride the High Country. He even managed to find greatness in failure. Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid is one of the greatest, not quite perfect movies ever made. Peckinpah's failures, in fact, sometimes were more interesting than other filmmakers' successes. But for some reason, Cross of Iron always seems to get short shrift. I have a couple of ideas as to why, but it's always kind of mystified me. It is his only war film, and Peckinpah was very adamantly opposed to war and recognized, I think, that many war films end up, no matter what their intentions, actually glorifying war. When you make a film about men fighting for a sympathetic cause, like, say, the Americans or the British in World War II, no matter how grueling and horrific you make it, it does end up, in a way, glorifying the war. So Peckinpah strips that away by making his characters German soldiers fighting in Hitler's army in Russia. It's an interesting approach, and there aren't a lot of American war movies made from the Nazi point of view. In fact, very few American films made from that point of view at all. Of course, Spielberg made Schindler's List. There aren't that many others. What it does is it does strip away any kind of glory, any kind of belief in a cause, and just get down to the basics of war. It's also made very clear, as you have to with a film like this, that these are not Nazis per se. None of these men are sympathetic. They all kind of hate Hitler and the German cause. They certainly are not men who believe in what they're fighting for. So in the end, it boils down to what all war stories are really about: men fighting for their comrades in an insane world, in an insane situation. It is one of Peckinpah's best, and it's his last really good film. He followed this with a pair of movies about which the less said the better, but I'm all surprised that Cross of Iron gets so little attention. The plot involves James Coburn's character, Sergeant Steiner, who's a good man who's seen too much war, doesn't give a damn about Hitler or the cause, and cares only about his men. His CO is played by Maximilian Schell, who's an aristocratic asshole who cares much more about glory and getting himself a Cross of Iron than anything else. Cross of Iron being a medal for heroism. And he's willing to take the credit for the act of another soldier to get that, a soldier who dies heroically. Steiner is the only character who can stop him, who knows the truth of the matter, and he ends up trapped behind enemy lines. And it ends up being a bit of a cat and mouse game as Coburn tries to get his men back home, and Schell tries to keep them from getting there. It's full of classic Peckinpah battle sequences. In spite of its very small budget, he managed to pull off some amazing scenes that really have a kind of epic feel. It was a joint British and German co-production, which was common at the time, and which explains the multinational cast. We got James Coburn, Maximilian Schell, James Mason, David Warner. In spite of its low budget, they managed to pull off some incredible scenes, and they did actually, sadly, run out of money before the film was done. But they did manage to cobble together an ending that actually works. And in spite of that budget, the film is actually hailed by war buffs for much of its technical accuracy, which is very impressive, the uniforms and the equipment that they used. Peckinpah was passionate in his hatred of war, and the film ends with black and white photos from Hitler's Germany, which slowly segue into shots from Vietnam, which is a war he truly despised. It's all really kind of summed up in an exchange between Mason's colonel and David Warner's captain. James Mason says, "What will we do when we lose the war?" David Warner says, "Prepare for the next one."